But I'm telling you that because understanding that someone else hurting you is not your fault is so important.
I got a glitch. Oh, it just
Hello
hit me
everyone
now.
and welcome back. It's Ash, your truth-bombing fairy godmother for everything love, dating, and relationships. For today's video, I really just want to provide some reassurance to those of you who have been deeply hurt by someone who was meant to love you. I see so many comments from you guys describing really awful, toxic, or even abusive treatment by ex-partners, current partners, or even friends, and that so many of you interpret that behavior as a reflection of your worth. That you somehow did something to deserve that behavior, or you weren't enough of blank, or you didn't do enough of blank. And seeing these types of comments just absolutely breaks my heart because it could not be further from the truth. So I really just want to reassure you that someone else's hurtful or even abusive actions is a reflection of them, not of you. But first, if you think you could benefit from new love, dating, and relationship videos every single week, then I highly suggest subscribing to my channel by tapping that button below. And on the topic of uploading every single week, some of you may have noticed that I actually didn't upload last week. And unfortunately, that is actually due to some personal issues that I'm currently dealing with that happen to be very relevant to today's topic, which is all the more reason I feel compelled to talk about it. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm just gonna get straight into it by sharing a quote that is so simple, but that speaks to this topic so perfectly, which, surprise, surprise, was shared by none other than Rising Woman. And it said, "Another's abusive actions are a reflection of their wounds, not your worth." And I really want those words to just fully sink in and just be believed and felt at the deepest possible level, because it does not matter what you think you might have done or what you think you might have done wrong or what you think you might not have done enough of. There is nothing that you could have done to justify being treated like shit. There is no possible mistake that you could have made to justify being maliciously hurt or abused. And you can take responsibility and accountability for your mistakes without also taking responsibility for another person's behavior. Another person's behavior is not your problem, especially when that behavior is hurtful, toxic, or abusive. And I think one of the many reasons we might take responsibility for another person's hurtful actions is because doing that is easier to digest. It gives us a sense of control. It gives us a sense of understanding, even if and when that understanding is false. It's easier for us to think, maybe I did do that wrong, or maybe I didn't do enough of blank, than it is for us to just simply accept that perhaps that person has wounding and underlying pain that is beyond our control and understanding, and that there's actually very little that we can do to change that. When someone intentionally hurts or abuses us, the only thing that we can know for sure is that that person is clearly in pain themselves. Whole, complete, fulfilled, happy, healed people do not intentionally hurt or abuse others. Therefore, if someone has treated you badly, please know that it is because of their own pain and unhealed wounds and trauma, and has nothing to do with you or your worth. And I'm not telling you that because I want you to sympathize with the abuser or feel as though it is somehow your job to fix or heal or change them, because it's absolutely not. But I'm telling you that because understanding that someone else hurting you is not your fault is so important. Abusive behavior is not the result of any deficiencies or anything that you did or didn't do. It's purely a result of the other person's wounds, pain, insecurities, attachment styles, unhealed trauma, lack of self-awareness, lack of introspection and insight. That's it. Your only job when it comes to dealing with another person's hurtful, toxic, or abusive behaviors is to safely get the fuck out and protect yourself from further harm. To share a bit about what I'm currently going through with you guys, I'm currently dealing with a situation at work right now where someone I used to be very close friends with is trying very hard to hurt me. A long story short, I was really good friends with this person and made a personal decision at the start of this year to just distance myself from the friendship and just keep things purely professional. And unfortunately, me doing that clearly hurt this person's ego very much. And what started out as just annoying gossip escalated and has now turned into just outright, overt, intentional bullying. And for a very brief moment, it was really tempting to try and rationalize this, and I almost fell into that trap of thinking I somehow did something to deserve this. But the truth is, even if I was somehow doing something wrong, let's say I suddenly became super lazy or stopped doing my job or just otherwise became a crappy employee, even if any of that were true, it would not in any way, shape, or form justify the things that this person has said or done towards me. Even if I was in the wrong, a more appropriate form of action would be to engage in a discussion with me, to raise some concerns, to have some type of conversation or sit down and engage in something productive together. It does not matter what I did. I couldn't have possibly done anything that would make bullying or malicious, hurtful behavior okay or acceptable. And thank fuck I know that to be true, and that I know deep in my soul that I have not done anything to warrant or deserve this type of treatment, because knowing that has made processing this far less stressful than it would have otherwise been if I was assuming responsibility for this person's behavior. I'm able to surrender and just go, you know what, this is really hurtful and really confusing, and I don't understand why exactly this person is doing what they're doing. But I do know that it's not about me and that it's really none of my business. This is an inner issue that is beyond my understanding, and clearly beyond the understanding of this person too, because if they did recognize and understand it, they'd be getting some help, they'd be doing some soul searching instead of lashing out and spraying their venom onto me. And that's what I want you all to feel too. I want you to be able to acknowledge the very real hurt and pain that this person has inflicted upon you, but to also surrender the need to assume the responsibility for this person's careless, destructive, or vicious patterns. And I want to share what Rising Woman went on to say in that post that I shared at the start of this video, because knowing on a logical level that another person's abusive actions are on them and not on you is one thing, but taking it one step further and really getting to the root of why it is that you are assuming that responsibility in the first place is equally as important. And she goes on to say, I think one of the most powerful things I ever did after escaping a series of incredibly abusive relationships was step out of the gray space of trying to figure them out, understand why they did what they did, why they didn't love me enough, and take my energy back. When I truly began healing, I stopped trying to understand them. I gave up making myself wrong for enduring the abuse I went through, and I started looking at my mind. What program was I running on that caused me to believe that it was on me to save, fix, or rescue someone who was abusive to me? What part of me felt so worthless that I allowed another person to cause me harm? What did I need to heal within myself so that I could break the pattern of attracting and engaging with harmful or dangerous people to start commanding a high level of respect, admiration, and safety from the people I spent time with? And those are the questions I really encourage you to ask yourself and explore too. Because again, it's one thing to go, okay, sure, I didn't do anything to deserve that treatment, which is fantastic, don't get me wrong. But to take it one step deeper by bringing that compassion and curiosity to your own wounding and your own inner narratives is how you take responsibility in a way that actually makes sense. Because taking responsibility for another person's actions or another person's abusive actions will never, ever, ever make sense or ever pay off in a meaningful, constructive way. So if you're stuck asking yourself questions like, how could someone I love or someone who loved me do something to hurt me so deeply? Or how could they have done something so awful to me? It's because they are hurt, wounded people themselves. You are enough and worthy and lovable just as you are right now, and there is absolutely nothing you could have done in order to justify the treatment that you received. And I'm so sorry that you have been hurt so deeply. I don't even have to know you or know any details about your situation, but if you have been abused on any level, whether it's emotional, psychological, mental, physical, etc., I do know that you did absolutely nothing to deserve it. And your only responsibility here is to explore your inner world and ask yourself what type of wounds or false beliefs you may be holding on to that have somehow managed to convince you that someone else's toxicity or abusive actions are okay or somehow your fault. If you're open to sharing with me, perhaps you could even use the comment section down below as a way to just kind of journal on that question. For example, did you learn that love had to be earned, or that love should be painful? Or do you accept poor treatment because it's a direct reflection of how you feel about yourself or what you think you deserve? Whatever it may be for you, I just really encourage you to get more curious about yourself and what may be fueling your tendency to try and rationalize or justify other people's hurtful actions. I'm here, I'm listening, and I feel for every single one of you who are watching this video right now and who are finding yourself in this position. I just want you all to know how worthy and valuable and important you are. And honestly, my only goal of today's video was to remind you of that. Thank you all so much for watching. I love you all so much, and I will see you all next week.
Tell me what was in that stuff you gave me. I think I like it. In fact, it made me high pitched.